Crop planning isn't about control, it's about alignment. It's about aligning your bloom time with how and when you actually sell your flowers. That's it. Welcome to Rooted Agritourism. I'm Dr. Liz Fiedler Mergen, owner of Sunny Mary Meadow, a U-Pick flower farm, wedding florist, and event venue in central Minnesota. Our mission is to serve anyone rooted in agritourism, value-added agriculture, and rural entrepreneurship. The people turning ideas and raw products into thriving businesses and experiences. Let's dig in. Welcome back to another episode of the Rooted Agritourism podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Liz Fiedler Mergen. And before we dive in, I want to be really clear about something. We're going to talk about crop planning for your flower farm. If you follow my farm on social media, Instagram, Sunny Mary Meadow, you see that I sell my flowers for a lot of different outlets, and my farm, every single farm is going to look unique compared to everyone else's. We all have different pathways to how we define success. We all have different ways that we sell flowers. And something that I've been very clear on is think of flowers as food. Saying that you're a flower farm is like saying you're in the food industry. You grow flowers, but are you a restaurant? Are you fast food? Are you a culinary experience? You can have a lot of different pathways to success. Whatever that means to you, I want you to just kind of lean in and learn what you can from this episode. So first of all, this is not a commercial for my new platform, Farmers to Florists. Of course, I'm going to talk about it, but it is a tool that we use on our own farm because we built it for us. And I think it's going to be amazing for the majority of listeners, but it's not for everyone. But this episode is about the principles of crop planning, not software. You can do all of this manually in a notebook, pen and paper, spreadsheets. The platform simply makes the manual work faster and cleaner and less error prone, which ultimately saves time and money. But that's it. You do not need it. So we're going to talk about the basics. And if you're curious about the platform, there'll be more information about it. But crop planning isn't about control. It's about alignment. It's about aligning your bloom time with how and when you actually sell your flowers. That's it. Making sure that your flowers are blooming when you're going to need them so that you can actually sell them. And I'm going to kind of try to ground this with real numbers from my farm. I have about 1,000 peony plants that are going on year 3. So from experience, I know that the earliest varieties, usually the last 2 years, have been blooming May 26th, May 27th, June 1st. So I grow a wide range of varieties of them, and my peony harvest stretches about 2 weeks because I have early bloomers, late bloomers. And because of this, I can predictably know that I'm not going to plan on my own peonies for that first wedding of the year, that May 30th or whatever. It'd be great if I have some because they'd be really useful. But the 3-4 weekends after that, I will definitely plan on using peonies and, dry packing them in the cooler. And the thing is, peonies are not just flowers. They're labor, they're cooler space, they're cash flow, they're customer expectations. For me, they are a very highly used flower. And I do have 2 walk-in coolers. One is my old one that is in the original butcher shop that was here on this farm. And then one is my new one in my new space, and that is dedicated to tulips and peonies. I use the old one for, and then the new one is the one that we're using for our regular fresh florals. Even before we talk about sales, the main thing that I start planning on for the year is crop planning, and it really just affects all of those decisions. So something that often gets lost in conversations is about the planning. And when you're just starting as a new flower farmer, crop planning might not be that critical. So if your business model is simple, like a U-Pick, a farm stand, casual market sales, you can keep things simple. You can go by your last frost date. You can direct sow those heat-loving annuals, the sunflowers, the zinnias, the cosmos, and sell what you have when it's blooming. You can pretty well predict your subscriptions around that frost date of those heat-loving annuals, and that keeps it pretty straightforward. And that's what I did for a long time until I started booking things that were not in alignment with those heat-loving annuals and deciding that I wanted to learn how to serve those customers. Enter high tunnels with or without a heater and really extending my season and planning for it. In the early years, you can have that simplicity, and that is just as important to have that strategy in the very beginning. But once you move into crops like Lysianthus and Ranunculus and tulips and dahlias and snapdragons and bupleurum that are one and done, and you have to have a plan for when they're blooming, these crops require planning because they are slow, they are expensive, and they are timing dependent. At its core, crop planning means two things. When will this crop bloom and how will I sell it when it does? And so that includes a lot of succession planting. You can sit there and grow 200 sunflowers every 10 days so that you always have that focal flower. Or for me, I just grow about 1,000 of them to be blooming first week of August. And August 10th, I have an event on my farm called Sunfest, and I have 1,000 sunflowers that are blooming, and that takes care of it. And then, I use them in bouquets, and there's some still blooming in the field, and I'm not replanting them all the time because they're not a flower that I can use for weddings. They're not a flower that is desired for that type of work. So they're not useful to me other times of the year. But like it or not, flowers like snapdragons and Lysianthus, they're succession planted. And yes, snapdragons will bloom longer. They're kind of cut and come again. But if I plant them, mid-June, I'll have a big 3-week burst of them in September. So planning that out. This year, I have my 3 high tunnels. And my biggest one is 3,200 square feet, and it has 2 heaters. And that allows for serious season extension here in Minnesota. The basic manual process is write down when you plant everything, look up the days to maturity. I would say give or take 2-week window, depending on sun and conditions. And then you have your harvest window. And that experience will come from trial and error, learning from other growers and Googling the days to maturity, and track what actually happens on your farm in your zone. And crop planning isn't about predicting the future. It's about narrowing the window so that you're not guessing. So why this matters from a business perspective is on my farm, about 50% of what we grow goes into our own events. That includes weddings, rehearsal dinners, baby showers, bridal showers, where the colors and varieties matter. I'm doing a lot more pinks and blues because we host at least a couple bridal showers every weekend on our farm, and that's getting booked out. Rehearsal dinners before the wedding. Sometimes they're picking a totally different color palette than they're having for the wedding the next day. Sometimes they're using the same flowers that they're using for their wedding and just getting more of them, or upgrading, reusing them 2 days in a row. A lot of different options. But then those weddings, of course, I know that I need those specific colors, those specific weeks. So if I know that I have an all white wedding in August, I need white flowers blooming in August. And that means planting them at specific times for that specific plant, entering it into the crop planner and looking at when they're supposed to be blooming. And then that'll tell me. So that was about 50% of the flowers that we grow. And then about 20% of what we grow is for other florists. So again, those same florists need specific colors at specific times, and that requires planning on both sides. And then the remaining 30% of what we grow, I'm not gonna say it doesn't matter, but that remaining 30% goes into market bouquets, subscriptions. If we are hosting events at our venue, like corporate retreats, they want beautiful flowers, but it's less concerning about what the exact colors are. And so that mix only works if you plan ahead. And so they're not necessarily getting the leftovers for those events. It's just maybe the colors that we didn't need that week. They're still very premium, nice, lovely flowers. It's just if we had certain color palettes those weeks, this is a way that we can use our other flowers. And that mix and that business model really only works if you plan ahead. And that's where tools can come in. You can use pen and paper. You can use a spreadsheet, you can use a whiteboard, take a picture of it. I've done it all. We built Farmers to Florists just to reduce the repetition and the mental load and get it all on paper. And it doesn't replace that experience. It replaces doing the same work over and over again. Because basically you can enter planning dates once, see the projected windows instead of guessing. You can adjust the planting quantities or the planting dates, and then it automatically adjusts the harvest window or the projected inventory. And you can allocate those crops across those multiple sales channels. And then you can have planting and harvest lists planned out. So then you know exactly what gets planted when. And you can definitely do all of those things manually, but that's really what crop planning is. And so this tool is meant to reduce the time rechecking and adjusting spreadsheets, because if you change the date that you planted something by a couple weeks, then you're going to change the date that those things are ready by a couple weeks. And so in Minnesota, Zone 4B, it's January. I just booked a $5,000 wedding for August. I just booked it now, literally yesterday. And her flowers are beautiful. It's a lot of just garden-y vibes and some green cascade amaranth and white lisianthus and Queen Anne's lace and white snapdragons and buplurum and a lot of flowers that are achieved with the local list. We will probably have to buy some hydrangeas, possibly some white roses. I'm really hoping our own dahlias will be ready at that time too. And then some greens we'll have to supplement from the wholesaler. But otherwise, I'm trying to grow to order for that wedding. So basically, I'm going to take amaranth. I know that it blooms in, roughly 7 weeks after planting it. Lisianthus, that's been about 14 weeks. I'm going to count backwards from that. And then I'll enter it in the crop planner on the date that I would plant it. And I will, just work backwards from when I need to harvest it. And so for those things, I know that they last a long time in the cooler. Therefore, I will have them ready to bloom that projected window about a week prior to needing them, because they can sit in the cooler. So then decide how to source those, whether it's seeds, plugs, both. And again, just work backwards. And that decision can live on paper. It can live in a tool, but either way, that decision has to be made. So however you end up doing it, crop planning is not about being perfect. It's just about making decisions early when you still have the options. If you are interested in learning more or just curious if this could be a good tool for you, we do have open office hours for Farmers to Florists, and it's Monday nights at 8 p.m. Central, Thursday mornings at 10 a.m. Central. If you just go to farmerstoflorist.com, there's a banner across the top that says office hours. You click on it. There's literally the direct Zoom link. You don't have to enter your email. You don't have to do anything. You just pop on. It's me and either Caleb or Justin. Say hi. There are a lot of users that are already using it, that are using it to ask questions or make suggestions or things that they want to change or things that they like or just feedback. Or if you're curious if it could be right for you and you want to see a live demonstration, you can join that way. So no pressure to buy anything. Ask questions about crop planting. It doesn't have to be about the tool. If you're saying, hey, I'm really confused on how I'm supposed to do this, how do you know what's blooming when? We can talk through real scenarios, whether you use any sort of software or not. There isn't a tool out there similar to this. There's some things where you can list your inventory and there's different platforms for selling. But as far as I know, there is not a crop planner like this, which is why we built it. So just less stress, fewer surprises, use more of what you actually grow. And crop planning does not have to be fancy. It's just respectful of your time, your labor, and your flowers. Thank you so much for listening. Another episode of Rooted Agritourism. This weekend, we have Flower Farmer Forum Conference at our farm. We've got over 30 flower farmers coming. There's a couple getting on airplanes. They're coming across states. I think we have 5 different states where farmers are coming from. But just coming to learn and connect and hear from speakers. Yeah, I'm really excited for where things are going, and we'll continue chugging away at flower farming. So thanks for listening. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Rooted Agritourism. If you enjoyed it, please leave a 5-star review and share it with someone who would find it helpful or inspiring. Your support helps us reach more rural entrepreneurs, dreamers, and doers just like you. You can explore all of our resources at sunnymarymeadowcoaching.com, where you'll find each episode in blog form along with free resources to help grow your business. You'll also find info on upcoming on-farm and virtual workshops, classes, and courses. Be sure to check out our monthly membership, Foundations of Peddling Perishable Products, where you'll get access to a full library of our original course content, plus ongoing support through monthly virtual meetups with others in the industry. Just click the link in the show notes or our bio to learn more. We'd love to have you join us. Until next time, keep growing with purpose and stay rooted.